Good evening and salutations, my patrons. We'll start off with Sasha for a hot minute. So Carly and Felicia are visiting her, and they both offer her a place to stay, but she's been living at the Quartermains for a hot minute, and even though that place and some of the people there have given her a headache from time to time, she still considers that place her home. So she's like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna sit there and stay there. And then they talk about Willow. She's very thankful for what Willow did. And she finds out that Willow, lost the kids and how she practically had to break down and collapse and is in the hospital and everything like that. And, she feels bad for her. She's like, she feels grateful for what she did and she feels bad for her. But I don't know. Part of that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because it wasn't that long ago that she was judging Willow like there was no tomorrow. Hell, she literally sat there and said, I have the right to judge you. I guess it all changed when she decided to be human and deliver your baby. So I don't know. Part of that whole, oh, I feel so bad, just came across as like, it just rubbed me the wrong way. There's a point where they bring in a baby, where they bring in a baby, and she's like, that's not my baby. Michael eventually comes in, they get her the right child and everything like that, and Felicia's like, how did this happen? They're gonna get to the bottom of it, but I hope it actually leads somewhere. Because I'm gonna be honest, that seemed like they just kind of came out of nowhere. Like it really came out of nowhere. I mean, I know stuff like that does happen from time to time, but then they make a show like that called Switch That Birth. Anyway, we go from there to Lulu. And Lulu sees Geo and he apologizes. And Geo pretty much is like, there's no need to apologize. Hell, he actually thanks her because now he knows the truth. But throughout the conversation, she actually makes the situation worse, and she actually does put him right back in pain, right? And let's be honest, in some ways you can sit there and look at this and be like, you apologize to absolve yourself, to make yourself feel less guilty. And then in the process, you just wind up doing more damage. Hell, I think she was not there bringing up his birthday, which wasn't his actual birthday. So now he's just really in a tailspin. Now, oddly, throughout this conversation, there's a couple of points where Lulu actually defends Gio, because Gio has just been on this spiral. I get that he doesn't want to rock with Dante, right? But then he's all upset with Brooklyn, and while some of the stuff is valid, there's a point where he's like, "Oh well, she should have known that I was her son. She should have felt it." And I'm just like, "Okay, bro." I was like, "All right, I'm gonna need to take some days from you. I need you to take some time away from you because." Part of it just feels like you just kind of going a little bit bananas there. And I know most people can sit there and be like, but he's going through a lot and he's emotional. And I don't have it in me to dip. Okay? I don't have it in me to sit there and be understanding. That's not who I am. Y'all can go to Brock TV or DC for that. I don't, I don't do understanding. That's not what I do. So some of that stuff, I'm like, bro, you gonna need to start to get your shit together. But again, she does sit there and make matters worse. And while that's going on, I still don't understand what Brooklyn wants Marco to do as far as getting information, because she wants to get information on Britt. Britt stole Lulu's eggs. Let's see. Yeah, still Lulu's eggs. Tries to pass the baby off as her own, and I wasn't watching during the time, but I guess like she was trying to pass it off to like Dante or whatever. But I just don't understand what she plans on doing with the information now. Marco is like, well, what do you plan on doing with this information? I'm like, Marco, you're getting paid to find information. You're not being paid to sit there and start asking questions like, what you gonna do with it, right? And she probably kind of tells him that. But there's a point where Rocco comes home from being with Dante and Sonny, and he talks about how he was with Gio, and Gio's pretty cool and everything like that. But then he's like, Gio doesn't need to be upset with Dante. Gio needs to be upset with you. And I'm like, that's not a pocket thing to sit there and say. Like, I don't know on what universe gave him the balls to sit there and say something like that, but that was hella disrespectful. Um, they talk for a little bit, and then, he leaves or whatever. Um, Drew. Drew. The gift that just keeps on giving. So he goes to the hospital to go see um, Willow. And Nina tries to stop him. Nina's like, yo, listen, right now this isn't a good time. She's shattered, everything like that. And Drew's like, oh, well, she needs me. I was like, no, what she needs is her kids back. And she's shattered partly because she was sitting there listening to your dumbass. So the last person she actually needs on this planet is you. And, Portia's like, no. Like, Nina put in an order, only family can sit there and see her. And so that don't include you. You ain't married to her, so no. Then Drew's like, okay, I'm going to sit there and remind both of y'all who's in charge. And he tells Portia to have Curtis run some sort of article saying that there was a miscarriage of justice and the judge got it wrong as far as, the decision. And I'm kind of just like, what is that going to do, though? Like, how is Curtis running a story saying that the judge got it wrong going to get her kids back? I don't understand that. Is it part of a bigger plan? Because otherwise, that just seems like I get that you have power and you're blackmailing her, but you're kind of using it for some dumb shit. Though. I'm gonna be honest. You're kind of using it for some dumb shit. Um. Anyway, so he tells her to do that, and then he also sits there and tells Nina, listen, I'm gonna sit there and see her. We're gonna go and see her. Now Willow is broken, and Lucas sits there and tries to help us with this, saying right now he's mad, he's pissed off. When the dust settles and you're kind of more yourself, he'll let you see the kids. You know? And so, she kind of thanks him for just, being nice and everything. And let's be honest, no one in that town really rocks with her, if we're going to be honest, except for Nina at this point. And there's a point where Drew and Willow goes to go and see her. And, Nina's like, listen, she don't really have anybody else. Because they talk about how, Drew at this point is like, all right, well, if you want to sit there and tell her, tell her. Tell her we had sex. This way, she's not with anybody. And, at this point, he's like, well, listen, it is what it is. I was like, no, it's not. It is not is what it is. Because he practically sits there and says, you know, she pretty much kind of destroyed all the relationships she had with damn near everybody in town. We're the last two people that is still standing by her. And I'm kind of just like, well, partially whose fault is that, Joe? Whose fault is that? I mean, seriously, when you stop to think about it, he talks about how she needs Sam. And, part of me, just kind of spitballing here. I feel like he only wants to get her kids back, 'cause at this point, she's not really much use to him, you know? She's not, oh, Willow that's going to sit there and follow you to the end of the earth. She's a broken woman right now. So yeah, okay, you want to sit there and get her kids back, but do you want to do it because you love her and you love her kids, or are you sitting there doing this because then she can be, back to herself as far as following you? Because I mean, any other person would have been like, listen, you need time to heal, and let me sit there and take a step back, as opposed to like, no, I need to see Willow. Willow needs to see me. Willow needs to sit there and see a goddamn therapist. That's who she needs to sit there and see. Probably some Jesus too, but like definitely therapist. Anyway, they get her out, they sign her out and everything like that. And as they're about to go towards the elevator, they see Michael, and Michael, and Carter. Now Michael went to go sit there and see Curtis. Curtis wants to resonate. He wants to resign because he doesn't want to sit there and ruin the integrity of Aurora by constantly running stories that only fits Drew narrative. But Michael's like, nah, I got your back. You continue doing what you're doing, and Drew's gonna get sloppy. He already got sloppy the last time. He's gonna get sloppy, and that'll be your chance. He's gonna get overconfident. Michael. Michael's a strategist. When shit hits the fan, you go to him, and so that's how he's sitting there looking at it. So Curtis, when Portia comes back, Portia's like, well, Drew needs you to run this article favoring Drew and Willow and, the bad decision or whatever. Curtis is like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But he does sit there and say to her, you're not the enemy, Drew is, right? Um, and part of me sat there and was like, okay, you realize that she's not the enemy. Maybe I could sit there and get shit back on track. But then I sit there and I see the previews, and Curtis is there saying to Jordan, I don't know if we're going to sit there and work out. Why not? I was like, bro, did you not understand the vows that you made when you decided to sit there and marry this woman? And I'm not, and granted, yes, I understand that she made vows to you and she lied as well. And you sat there if you forgave her, but it's supposed to be, good times and bad times, not, oh, you made me angry and I don't feel like dealing with you anymore. Like, bro, I mean, no offense to some of the millennials out there, that's some millennial shit right there. That's not some grown folks, people who understand the value of marriage. It's like this dude is acting like a damn Rich Forster. The minute that his wife starts to do something that gets him a little annoyed, he wants to sit there and practically toss it to the side. Um, God, there was a lot. All right, so Emma catches both of Joss and Vaughn kissing. And at first she's like, oh, I can sit there and tell, I can do this. And she decides, you know what, Devon, I'm not going to sit there and say anything. So he leaves, but she tells Jocelyn, you know, um, she wants something from her. So, after being all petty and everything like that, she's the one that's not there filing his paperwork while Jocelyn's not there telling Vaughn the bad news. And Vaughn and Jocelyn are going to try to find a way to get Emma away from Dalton. Because, if Emma starts snooping around, that means Anna's going to snoop around. If Anna snoops around, then that means that whatever Dalton's working on, he's going to sit there and shut it down. So the idea is to sit there and plant Vaughn as, an animals person that wants to sit there and help animals and be down for the cause and kind of lead her down the wrong path. I guess that's the plan. It doesn't seem like a good one, but whatever. Meanwhile, Dalton catches Emma, filing papers. And, Emma practically throws Jocelyn under the bus, starts flirting with him. And, then she's all like, oh, I want to see the lab. Can I just sit there and see the lab? And at that point, listen, Dalton's like, hey, listen, I get it. Because even Vaughn was sitting there peeping how Emma was flirting with Dalton. And although Dalton does kind of seem like, you ain't bad looking. But my investors and stuff like that, they're not going to be happy you being in the lab and seeing whatever unethical stuff that I'm working on. So he still sits there and shuts it down. Um, what else wound up happening? And the last scene is Sunny, Dante, and Rocco, which leaves. And the only thing that winds up happening is that, Dante, well, I think it's Dante that's not there wanting Sunny about Turner coming hard at him. And, Sunny's not there apologizing to Dante because Dante got frozen out of a case because of, well, now he knows of conflict of interest. And, just to sit there and look out for Gio because, at this point, Dante just kind of realized, like, I can't. There's not really much I can sit there and do because he's still pissed off at me for me, well, essentially acting like an asshole. So, he's like, hey, listen, we'll look out for Gio. And of course, someone's like, yo, I've been looking out for Gio since, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, since forever. So that ain't going to sit there and stop. Um, I feel like that's about it. It might be more. It might be more. But, it's funny. Shout out to Ariana. Because, she was like talking about how much Drew is a narcissist. And when you sit there and you look at it, you're like, she had a point. Like, I mean, the woman is broken, and the only thing he can sit there and do is think about how he's going to sit there and comfort her. You know who needs to sit there and comfort her? A therapist. Jesus. Um, yeah, shout out to her. Anyway, I feel like that's about it. I might have missed some stuff here or there. This is, just the episode. Come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'll be sitting there talking about all the shows. You know what they are. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next video.